Robert Davies seated for him. The first item on our agenda is a continuation of case 18004 SIT. This is the application for SBA Towers to request a site plan approval for the relocation of a wireless communication tower from 165 Old Turnpike Road to 175 Old Turnpike Road, property located at 175 Turnpike Road. It's tax map 3, lot 6, sublot 1. In this case, we have, since this is a continuance, the last meeting we had was on site. We conducted a site walk December 1st. And I think the full planning board was in attendance for that. The minutes should be available shortly.
I've submitted them already for
Excellent.
review.
Okay. And what that site walk was is just to allow the planning board to get a feel for the land, get a visual understanding of the application, topography, where things would sit on the land. So that's what the purpose of that. So we now have some of the plans resubmitted by SBA. At the previous meeting, we, along with the continuance for the site walk, was a request for some revisions to the plan. And the plans that we did receive, see there is an engineer's stamp for New Hampshire, and the tower has been revised to a monopole tower, which would then meet the setback requirements. So those were items that were requested. Was there other things that were requested? I don't know, have that list offhand, but so we do have in possession are the resubmitted materials.
Mr. Chairman, did we ask that the rectangle be identified that's to the west of the driveway? The rectangle with the little dots in it?
Yeah, we did ask for that, that structure to be just noted on the plan, so that still should be added to that.
Mr. Chairman, just a point of order. We had set a deliverable date of 12/5. I believe we received the new materials 12/6. I don't know if we just need to acknowledge that and have a vote to make sure that we hear it. I know, since it was pretty minor changes. We probably had sufficient time to review it, but.
Sure, if you want to make a motion that we would accept the plans on December 6th versus December 5th.
Okay. So I'll make a motion that we accept for comment tonight the plans that we received on December 6th, 2018.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Those in favor indicate aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, it's unanimous. So we can, certainly review these plans or use these plans for any questions we have tonight. The public meeting is still open, so we will allow any public to come speak to, for, or against the application. And when we do that, I just ask that it be new information only. We did hear some information and comments from the last one. As long as it was not repeated, we'd be happy to listen. At this point, I just want to ask the board if they have any additional questions. I do have a little bit of information from our own zoning board. The zoning administration has alerted the homeowner, the landowner, that there are some zoning violations on the site, and those have been recorded, and it is being dealt with right now within the zoning department and the building inspection. So there is some conversations that are going on between the town and that landowner to resolve the zoning violations that are there. And we will, if there is an approval, then there will be a condition that those get resolved. Any questions, comments from the site walk? Any observations that should be noted? We can get them in the record today for discussion or questions.
I think we reflected them in the minutes, but, so the sidewalk, you know, we noted some of the zoning, potential zoning issues, with the several residences, number of vehicles, and, vast amount of apparently used tires and other debris around the yard, in this area and elsewhere. Looks like the applicant has moved the tower a little bit away from the property boundary, as we had requested, which brings it more to the, I believe, level area, which he can speak towards. But I think those were the biggest things.
I have a comment. I did not put what I'm going to say in the minutes, but there was some discussion when we were at the site that because of the violations that were noticed on the property, that a soil testing should probably be done if they're going to be moving soils around that might be contaminated.
Well, we're gonna leave that up to the zoning administration
Okay.
to enforce that. That's the enforcement
Arm?
arm for us.
Okay.
It's in their responsibility to do that. To what extent, again, and to what actual violations there are, that is up to the zoning administration.
Okay, thank you.
Just maybe more a question for the board, or I can't find the definition, but just maybe we could clarify the setbacks and what is deemed a structure, because it appears there is measurements of the 100-foot setbacks, but it appears the fencing is within that 100-foot area.
Yeah, and I guess that goes to some of our other discussions of fencing, and you know, fencing in a general term is not considered a structure. If somebody, you know, puts a fencing along their property line, it's not required to meet the setback.
That is actually in our definition for structure. Structure should not include a boundary wall, fence, driveway, and any kind of replacement septic system. So I think we are okay.
Good, thank you.
I do want to note that the applicant had indicated that there are some equipment pads that will be out there under the tower within the enclosure. Those equipment pads might be just a slab on grade with equipment above it. I would suggest that we also stipulate that if there is a structure to be placed over those pads, or any structure should still meet our setback or come back to the zoning board for a variance for those setbacks.
And then I'd say the last item was, which was identified in the set, where we had asked, there's a rectangle with kind of dots on it shaded to the left side of the current driveway that we had asked to be identified. It's not identified on the updated plans, but we identified it from the sidewalk. It appears to be a mobile home that appears to be being habitated right now? Habitated? No.
Occupied.
That's the word. So,
Okay.
Is this an appropriate time to ask a new question about
Yes,
what we're looking at?
it is.
I don't know if the residence was depicted in the original plan or not, but it is now, and it's shown at 117 feet. Is there any state statute on a fall zone for a structure that's 200 feet tall? That would be my question. I don't know if anybody has the answer to it here, but is there?
I can't say for a state statute, but there is no local statute.
Well, I know there's nothing local.
Yeah.
and there might be an FCC statute, which the applicant may be able to speak more towards, if there's anything like
Yeah,
that.
if you, maybe there's a question here, you can,
Invite me up, it's all good.
I just wanted to try and get as many comments out on the table here before we
Not a problem at
go
all.
back and forth.
Not a problem.
So the last, I'm sorry, the last thing before you answer that is the signature block would need to be on here before a final approval, or before we could do the final approval. That'd be a condition too. Sorry. Floor is yours now.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. For the record, Timothy Green, here on behalf of SBA. I know of no state or federal statute that deals with anything in a fall zone. A fall zone, so to speak, it's more of a setback. They're not designed to fall zone. Oftentimes, they are in local ordinances, but it's not anything that there's a higher level.
May I ask Mr. Green a question?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Green, what is a monopole? Is it just like a flagpole, only fatter?
No, monopole it's essentially well, I wouldn't say it's a utility stanchion. It's more of it's just a cylindrical tube. It's similar to, there is another monopole on going east down Old Turnpike Route 4. If you were going towards this location about 3 miles east, there's another monopole. But basically, it's just a pole rather than a lattice tower, and then all the cables go up inside the pole.
But there are arms,
Yes, and then there are arms off of it,
but
yes.
not as extensive as it would be for the other design.
It wouldn't be, no, it takes up a much smaller footprint down on the ground, and then, so a lattice tower, you're about 16, 18 feet apart with 3 legs, and it goes up like this, whereas a monopole starts,
So the antennas look the same?
yes.
Okay.
The equipment's the same. The equipment's the same, and the arms are roughly, the mounts for the equipment are the same also.
Sue, there's one on 101, just before the Raymond exit,
Yeah.
exit 4. Have you seen that one?
I've seen one that had didn't appear to have any antennae on it at all. It was just a pole on the way to Manchester. It's on the left-hand side. So,
No, this one does. It looks like arms out and then like a panel or something on it.
Correct. So the arms go out in 3, if you go to drawing Z4, shows an example. The platform would go out, and then the antennas would go around it.
But that width is the same as the original. I didn't keep the original plan, so I apologize, but
That's
that
okay.
14 feet is the same, pretty much the same, what, on the,
Yes, because the monopole is
Tripod.
like this, it's like, whereas on a lattice tower, the
Yep.
14 feet is kind of blocked by the lattice itself.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because it's probably going up, you're probably talking, it's not 16, it's 16 at the base, and maybe like 8 at the top, if you know what I mean?
Yep.
As it tapers up.
now would this design be conducive to sticking fake pine trees?
No.
Pine tree branches?
No, in order to, at 195 feet, we did look into it, because you had requested
Thank
to
you.
it would be a silo. It would be so wide at the base, in order to carry the additional weight to make it look like a tree, that it just wouldn't make it. So we went and met in the middle and said, well, make it just a monopole.
Okay. So would it also pick up, be like a sail and pick up wind and storms that came through too, with additional apparatus on the antennae?
I'm not
I think
following.
that's why you're saying for the extra weight, that's why the pole would have to be wider, is.
Correct, for the wind
extra-
loading.
for
Yes,
extra
we have
weight.
all of
Yes,
those
yes,
things
wind
sticking
loading,
out. The
yeah.
wind loading, because of the size of all that wind loading, you need to make it bigger and bigger so it doesn't fall down.
I don't know the vocab.
That's okay. I would have said,
All right, thank you.
Scales kind of went. 12 and a half, 25, 8.33, 16.67.
yes,
So I know it's trying to probably scale down for the 11 by 17s.
correct.
But I don't know. I don't think that is probably right.
Yeah, the graphic scales aren't right on
They
those.
can't be right, because like, so Z1, that would show that your curb cut on the floor was only, slightly over 17 feet. I'm sure that's not right.
Got it. One other thing that we have changed on the drawing, was a couple things, there were small things about names and tax map and things like that were changed. The topography is now actual on it. Before it was on a topo, and I know we had some questions on the site plan that it looks as if there's probably been some movement of earth over time. And so it's much, they overlaid the actual because they had gotten that information.
You talk about the topo on T1? Or
On
Z1.
Z1, yes. You can see now it looks a lot flatter. Actually,
So my only other question that we may want to discuss is potentially, and this may go back to the code enforcement, but is if the lot is non-conforming, we have two items that potentially could be non-conforming use and a non-conforming lot of record, which would be page 28 in the zoning ordinance. That pertains to this. We're clear of number 3, U3, which is non-conforming structure, because we're not discussing the existing structures. It's separate, but non-conforming use of non-conforming lot of record potentially could come into play.
No. What I'd rather do is have the department have control of that. 'Cause they've been notified, they will take up any of those non-conforming, violations. That will be rectified.
I see you provided the proposed coverage map.
yes,
The, where you say proposed coverage map, I know it's only moving a few, maybe a couple hundred yards from the existing site, but is
Correct.
this showing what coverage would look like with the tower in the new proposed location? Or is this coverage for where it's currently located?
this is. This is coverage from the existing site. We used that because that was the data that we had.
Gotcha.
Wouldn't expect it to change much with the new site.
Yeah, it's 800 feet away.
Right, it's not and the elevation doesn't change. It's not like you're going real high or real low, so. But we wanted to give you something you were interested in, seeing how the things move.
So, yeah, and I'll just appreciate you, providing this information. I'll just read what we have here. This is the relocation coverage, the cell phone coverage or cell coverage. As it's been stated before, so all the 4 carriers are located on the proposed tower. The coverage plots show the low band predictions representing the best case scenario. If there is if this site, the tower goes away, if it is not relocated, it'll provide a loss of approximately 2-mile coverage hole along Route 4. It will also result in degraded and lost services for residents in and around Route 4. And they did provide a coverage map basically as it exists today, and then as it would exist without that tower if it was not replicated. And it shows quite a bit of coverage loss from that if it was not replaced. Any other questions from the board? I would like to, the public hearing's still open, so